G'day team, welcome back to the channel. My name's Tony, this is the Mighty Overlander, and today we're in the Mighty Overlander shed. So that means it is gear review time. And for this gear review, we're going to be talking about the Wildtrak Leisure Australia range of Coolite fridges. So we've got the Coolite 30 and the Coolite 50, your 12 and 240 volt camping fridges. Now, what we'll do for this particular review is we'll talk about everything that you get in the box, including all your power cords and straps and all that kind of stuff. Then we'll talk about the dimensions and specifications and features of these units. I'll share a few of my experiences, and to wrap it up, I'll even offer some tips and tricks that I've learned along the way when it comes down to getting the most out of your camping fridge, regardless of the brand that it is. Now, if this is your first time to the channel, I'd love it if you hit that subscribe button and notification bell. Not only will you be notified whenever my content goes live, you'll also be helping the channel grow as well. Righto team, so if you've been to the channel before to see one of my gear reviews, you'll know that I've got 3 simple rules that I follow regardless of whether or not the gear has been sponsored or it's gear that I've purchased, because I do like to do gear reviews on both. Now, the first rule is pretty straightforward. It needs to be four-wheel drive camping and fishing related. The second rule is that it needs to be good gear in the first place, because I'm only really interested in sharing gear that has been really good for me and that I'm hoping will also be good for you as well. And the third rule is probably the most important. I need at least 3 to 6 months to be able to use this gear and take it out camping and kind of throw everything at it before I can give it Tony's tick of approval. And that kind of also shows that I've been using the gear, but you'll also see all of it being used in my camping episodes before it ever makes it to the Mighty Overlander shed for a gear review. Now, full disclaimer, Wildtrak Leisure Australia is the main sponsor of this YouTube channel, and they have given me these fridges. But if you're interested in any of the Wildtrak gear that I use, both in my camping episodes or when I do the odd gear review, make sure you head over to wildtrak.com.au and check them out. But if you want to see some of the adventures that we go on, head over to the Wildtrak Leisure Australia YouTube channel, because Wildtrak's not just a camping company, they are a WA owned and operated family camping company that I actually go camping with all the time. Absolutely legends. So make sure you head over and check out the team at Wildtrak. All right, team, with that out of the way, let's get stuck into this gear review. Go get yourself a nice cold one. I'll do all the hard work, and we'll talk about the Coolite range of fridges from Wildtrak Leisure Australia. Okay, first, let's talk about what you get in the box when you actually buy one of these Coolite fridges. Now, obviously, you're going to get the fridge itself, but then you're also going to get your power cords. Now, you've got 2 power cords that come with these ones. You've got your 12-volt power cord, which is a Sigma plug type. That's plugged into my power supply here on the front for the 50. Then you've also got your 240-volt power type as well. Now, this is particularly important because it means that you're actually able to use these fridges outside of the vehicle, or you can actually plug them into a 240 volt power supply prior to going camping and bring them down to temperature. Really handy as well. Now, they do come with 4 pull straps to make it nice and easy for you to mount to your fridge slide in at the back of your rig or wherever it is that you're going to be mounting to. They do have 4 little connection points on the front and back of the actual fridge itself to make it nice and secure. But one of the most important things that comes in the box is they come with a bag. So you don't have to buy the bags separately, they come with the travel bag itself. And these bags are a standard type silver-lined insulated bag, and I generally will put these on during summer in the back of the rig because it just provides a little bit more insulation from the ambient heat that does build up on the inside of the car, in particular if the car's been sitting in the sun for quite a while. All right, so that's everything that comes in the box. Let's now talk about some of the specifications and dimensions of these particular fridges. All right, so let's talk about some of the specifications and features, including dimensions, of these 2 fridges. Now, something that I haven't mentioned yet is there is actually a third fridge, which I don't personally own. It's the Coolite 40, and it sits in the middle of these 2 fridges. But everything about these fridges is exactly the same apart from the height and weight. So when it comes down to the dimensions and stuff, I will actually add the Coolite 40 stuff in there as well. So starting with the dimensions, we've got a 63 centimeter in length. We've got 36.4 centimeters in width. For the Coolite 30, they're 41 centimeters high. For the 40, they're 47 centimeters high. And then for the 50, they are 53 centimeters high. And that's the difference between 30 litres, 40 litres, and 50 litre capacity. Very important there. Now, the other thing that changes between the 3 of these fridges as well is the Coolite 30 weighs 14.5 kilos. The 40, which like I said, I don't have, is 15.5 kilos. And the big boy, the 50, is 16.5 kilos. Now, when it comes to weight, that is pretty light, and it's lighter than any of the other fridges that I have used in the past. As a matter of fact, when it comes down to my Coolite 30 for a similar size and capacity, it's actually lighter than that fridge was when it's fully stacked. So that kind of goes to show for that. Now, when it comes down to all of the other features, they do remain the same across the board. So like I said, the only difference is basically height and weight. So let's first off check out your control system at the front here. Now, this is fairly straightforward and easy to use. These fridges do draw all the way down to -20 to be a freezer, and they go as high as +10 for the fridge side of things. And this can be easily changed with your up and down arrows that you have here. Really easy to use. They also have functionality for power modes. So you've got eco mode and then you've got max power mode. Now, max power is used to basically bring the fridge down to temperature, and once you've got it stacked properly, you can swap it over to eco mode. You also have the ability to change your battery protection between 3 levels, and this means that the fridge will cut out depending on how much voltage is left in your battery. So if you're actually running it off your main battery in the car, you can set it up so it will cut out before your main battery drops below the threshold that you're actually able to start your car from. What it also has is the ability to change between your different measurement types. So you've got Celsius and then you've got the devil's measurement, Fahrenheit, but we won't really worry too much about that. And then last but not least, you've also got your power button here. If you hold that in, it will turn off. And then if you hold it in again, it will turn back on again. So pretty straightforward to use there. One little handy option that you do have on the front here is you've got a single USB outlet, and this gives you the option to be able to charge your phone or have a USB speaker or whatever other USB device that you want to use from the front of the actual unit itself. Very handy if you're going to be taking the fridge away from the vehicle, or if you've got, say, like your phone on charge whilst you're cooking up something by your little camp kitchen, and that's where your fridge is as well. All right, so let's open these up and have a look what's on the inside. Now, the first thing that you're going to notice is that they do have this awesome little blue light on the inside. Makes it very handy to see everything that's going on at night when you're trying to get your beers out. And when it comes down to separating your more delicate foods and whatnot, you do have a little divider for the top section here. This is where I personally keep things like eggs and yogurts and stuff like that. Things that could be easily crushed and make a mess on the inside of the fridge. Now, when it comes to making a mess, this next feature is probably my favorite because I do have a habit of making a mess on the inside of my fridges. Now, to make it really easy to clean, they've used a single molded piece of plastic for the tub on the inside. This means that there's no hard edges or corners for food or anything else to get caught into, which will later turn into terrible mold. And because it is a nice hard plastic, it's not going to permeate into that silver lining stuff that a few of the other companies out there use, especially when they've got like seamed joins and stuff like that. I did have one of those fridges in the past, and it was just impossible to keep clean properly. So this makes it really, really easy. And the thing that makes it even easier is the fact that it actually has a drain plug in the bottom. So it's almost like it's an esky with a compressor. I actually really like it. There's also this little track that runs around the inside of the bottom to help it drain out as well. So that's also super handy. Now, the other thing with the lid is that it's got a fairly simple latch on the front here. It's just a little push latch, so there's no requirement to undo little hasps or anything like that. It's just a simple pull open and then pop it down and it stays nice and shut. You've actually got to put a fair bit of force onto it for it to actually open. And I have not yet had any instance where the fridge top's popped open and all my stuff's gone flying or anything like that. So that's been really handy as well. Now, apart from that, that's the main features. So let's talk now about some of my experiences that I've had with this particular fridge. So like I said before, I've been now using the Wildtrak Coolite fridges for about 15 months. I first got the Coolite 50 back in, must have been about July of last year. It was before we went away on the Gun Barrel Highway. And then earlier this year, I changed it out for the Coolite 30. And I'll tell you why I did that in a moment. Now, one of the things that I really did notice straight off the bat was it was much easier to clean than my previous fridge that I had because I was able to wipe everything out really well. So that was a huge plus for me. It's been extremely robust. This particular fridge, I've taken it all the way across the Gun Barrel, all the way through the southwest of WA. This one now has been all through the Murchison region and everything like that. Now, this is partly of two reasons. One, it's a robust fridge to begin with, but two, I've also installed it into the car properly. So when when you do install these into your vehicle, make sure they're secured really well, and that way there's no chance of it flying around and getting damaged. But as for being able to handle things like corrugations and all that, no problems whatsoever. Now, I mentioned before that I changed from the Coolite 50 down to the Coolite 30 earlier this year, and this has got nothing to do with the fridge. It's actually all to do with my drinking habits. Because I'm not a very big consumer of alcohol, one thing I found is that I found it quite difficult to stack this fridge all the way up all the time, and that was a bit of a pain because, as you know, when a fridge is not stacked completely, it's actually working harder than it has to. It's much easier to keep liquids and food cold than it is to keep the dead space air inside the fridge cold as well. So because I'm not a big drinker and I'm not stacking the bottom of the fridge up with cans, I felt that, you know what, the Coolite 30 is probably going to be a better option for me, because it just meant that I was able to, you know, have my bottles of water and I'll have the small amount of food that I take with me on these trips as well. So it's been a more efficient fridge, I guess you could say, given the amount of food and stuff that I stack in it. That's probably the easiest way to put that, I think. Now, when it comes down to the 50, now this is the one that I took all the way across the gun barrel and everything like that, was perfectly fine, okay? One thing I will do is I'll put the 50 back in the car if I decide to go away on a particularly long trip that's more than a week. That means that I'll actually have enough food and stuff like that to stack in it. If I'm only doing the stuff that I've been doing recently, which is basically around, you know, 5 to 7 days, then the Coolite 30 is fine and I'll stick with that one. But having that little option between the two has been really handy as well. Now, I did say before that I use this in the home with the 240 volt connection, and this means that I'm able to actually use the larger one inside more than anything else rather than in my car. And I found that it's actually particularly handy for 2-litre tall bottles because they can stack in there quite well. So that's been quite good. Now, one other experience that I did have was, it's nothing to do with the fridge. So I had an issue with my car, all right? And what happened was the 12 volt connection in the back of the Jimny had sheared because of the corrugations on the Murchison when we were out there. And this happened probably a day and a half to 2 days prior, and I didn't realise that my auxiliary battery, the Nomad PDU in the back of the car, hadn't been getting charged. And I only worked it out after the fridge itself had actually died. Now, what I did to get through that, because I had about $200 worth of food in the fridge at the time, and I can't afford just to lose all of my food because it's not going to maintain its temperature. So what I did was I actually did this here. So this is moving more into the hints and tricks. I actually grabbed my my Wildtrak jump starter. Now this has got a 30 amp hour battery or something close to it, right? And because it's got the 12 volt outlet, I was actually able to keep this fridge fully stocked and already down to temperature, going for about 4.5, 5 hours, okay? Now this meant that I had plenty of time to get us to our next campsite, and I was able to pull open the back of the car and work out that the pin for the 12 volt connection had actually come off, and I come up with a plan to fix that. So that's a little bit of a tip there. You're able to actually use your jump starters and whatnot as an emergency power supply, and it got me out of Dodge in that situation. Now, one of the other tips that I actually learned is making sure that the fridge is always stocked, right? So this comes down to, once you've got your fridge down to temperature, I keep an extra 12 pack of bottled water underneath my passenger seat at all times. And then when I'm out and I'm actually using the waters and stuff like that that are in the car, I'm constantly putting them back in. And I'm always making sure that that fridge is fully stocked. But one thing that I do to get the fridge down to temperature quicker when I'm at home is I'll take 6 bottles of water and then I'll freeze them the night before. Then I pack those into the actual fridge themselves, put all of my other stuff in, and it will go down to temperature like that because it's got nice frozen water in there. This also means that if something was to happen and the fridge was to fail, I've then got essentially 6 ice packs in there, keeping everything in the fridge nice and cool as well, which is also super duper handy. Now, one of the other things that I did experience when it come down to my fridge is that if you don't stack these right, you will have uneven cooling. Now, this is a very common issue across all fridges, and it's got nothing to do with the fridge and everything to do with the way that you stack your fridge. Now, one of the best things that you can go do is head down to, say, Woolies or Coles and get yourself some organisers. I think there's one called a Steamer or something like that. They're basically like a stackable plastic Tupperware container, and that's what I have been using in the past to make sure that everything's stacked really well and there's plenty of airflow around the actual food and all that as well. So that worked really well for me. So if there's a little tip for you, go down, get one of those, and they actually fit the footprint on the bottom of the actual main compartment really well as well, which is good. Now, the only other things that I can probably share when it comes down to using your fridges is, like I said before, make sure it's down to temperature before you've got it into the actual car itself. That way you're not sucking the guts out of your battery before you're even at your campsite. And then once you've got it down to temperature, flick it over to that eco mode, which is always super handy as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. So there's the Wildtrak Leisure Australia Coolite fridges. All right, so that's all I can really say about the Coolite fridges. Like I said, in my experience so far, they've been fantastic. They haven't failed. They've been a really good size for the Jimny. They're a nice, robust and rugged design, and they've got 3 different size options that you can choose from. So it's all good, really. The fact that they come with a nice insulated bag is a huge plus, and you don't have to go out and buy extra stuff. And they've also got plenty of other functionality with things like USB outlets and all those kinds of things as well. So overall, a really good piece of kit. And like I said, that it has done really well for me. But before we go, let's have a quick look at the Wildtrak Let's have a quick look at the Wildtrak website at the current price of the Coolite 30. So $5.99 on sale. There you go. Now, that's probably not going to be the price that it is all the time. We've just gone through Black Friday. But if you do want to have a look at a fridge like this, jump onto the Wildtrak Leisure Australia YouTube channel and you can see some more information about it. But also go to their website at wildtrak.com.au. Look, like I said, guys, been really good for me. There's really not much else I can say about it. But look, if you've got some other tips that you would like to share with your fridges that you've had in the past, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what your comments are. And yeah, like I said, go check them out. They're not bad. All right, enjoy, and I'll see you on my next adventure. And we will also be going through some new changes to the vehicle as well that I have done recently. All right, team, have a good summer, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks' time for a camping trip.